Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. We are in the wilderness with the Israelites, beginning in Exodus 16 verse 1. We're going to read 12 verses today, and then I'll highlight some key themes that emerge. They journeyed from Elim, and the whole Israelite community came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month since their departure from the land of Egypt. But the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the desert. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Egypt, where we sat by pots of meat, where we devoured bread until satisfied. For you brought us out to this desert to kill this whole assembly with famine." Yahweh said to Moses, "Look, I will make bread rain from the heavens for them. The people are to go out and gather enough for each day so that I may test them. Will they walk according to my instruction or not? On the sixth day they shall prepare what they brought in, and it shall be double according to what they gather daily." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "By evening you will know that Yahweh brought you out from the land of Egypt, and by morning you shall see the glory of Yahweh, when he hears your grumblings against Yahweh. But as for us, why? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahweh." So Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole Israelite community, approach the presence of Yahweh, for he heard your grumblings." When Aaron spoke to the whole Israelite community, they turned toward the desert, and indeed the glory of Yahweh appeared in the cloud. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Speak to them, saying, at twilight you will eat meat, and by morning you shall be satisfied with bread. Then you will know that I am Yahweh your God." Okay, so they've entered the desert of Sin or Sin. It's unfortunate that this corresponds with our English word sin, because this has nothing to do with sin. It's not saying they entered the desert where people sin. It's the Hebrew word sin is probably a short form of Sinai. Now, most of the stops that they have made on their journey thus far probably only lasted a day or two, but they had spent up to 3 weeks at Elim to be refreshed by the springs of water and the shade of the palm trees. This is picking up the end of chapter 15. The locations of their journey are a little difficult to identify with certainty, but the point of the travel itinerary is to show God's deliberate guidance through the desert, this place that's unfamiliar to them. Now, I want to say a word about the calendar. Starting with the Passover in Exodus chapter 12, they have an entirely new calendar, a new reckoning of time, oriented around their release from Egypt, but including the Passover preparations. So God says to Moses back in chapter 12, this is to be a new month for you, the first month of the year. So they're scrapping whatever calendar system they had before, and they're beginning a new calendar with the instructions to celebrate Passover. On day 10 of that first month, they select a lamb. They guard it and keep it until the 14th day when they sacrifice it, put the blood on their doorposts, and on the next day they leave Egypt. So they leave Egypt on the 15th day of the first month of this new calendar. And we're told here that they arrive in the desert of Sin on the 15th day of the second month. So they've been traveling for 3 weeks so far in the desert. Again, mostly probably spending just a night, maybe 2 nights in one location, giving them enough time to catch their breath, but a longer stay at Elim where there was water readily available and palm trees. So now they're in the desert of Sin. The location is actually quite vague. The point is more that they haven't reached Sinai yet. They're at some undisclosed location in the desert. They begin complaining right away. And their complaint seems a little bit suspicious. They say, back in Egypt, we sat around pots of meat. But Egyptologists tell us that the average Egyptian did not eat meat. Only the elite ate beef or lamb. So the Israelites appear to be exaggerating. The average diet of a resident of Egypt was vegetables, bread, and beer, with occasional fish and sometimes wild poultry. So it seems that they are exaggerating the lifestyle that they had in Egypt while they were enslaved by Pharaoh. But God does not respond to their complaining with judgment. After they leave Sinai, when they complain like this, he will judge them. But they are just like toddlers now, just entering into a new relationship with Yahweh where they are learning to trust him and learning how he is going to provide for their needs. And so here he responds graciously. He says he's going to rain bread, which is the same language used to describe the hail. He rained down hail on Egypt as a sign of who he was. Here his rain will bring provision rather than judgment. He tells them that he's going to provide enough manna for each day, enough bread for each day. And the phrase here is davar yom bayomo, the stuff for each day. What I love about this phrase is it's the same phrase used back in chapter 5, verses 13 and 19 to describe the brick-making quota. Pharaoh required them to make davar yom bayomo, the stuff for each day. So what Pharaoh required of them by their own effort, God is providing for them by his gracious provision. Baked into this manna collecting instruction is the first Sabbath. They are supposed to collect double on day 6. And so it's interesting to note that Sabbath begins not with a prohibition of work, but with a double provision of food. This is the first time Torah is used as a command for all the people. In verse 4, Yahweh says, I will make bread rain from the heavens. The people are to go out to gather davar yom bayomo, enough for each day, so that I may test them. Will they walk according to my Torah or not? So here we have just one instruction, Torah, that he's giving them. And it's an instruction that's about what he's providing for them. Again, so gracious and beautiful. He's going to provide morning and evening, or evening and morning, meat in the evening and bread in the morning. And that evening and morning provision echoes the creation liturgy of Genesis chapter 1, where each day is evening and morning. Moses and Aaron announced to the people that they are going to see the glory of Yahweh. Glory is the visible proof of God's presence right there in their time of need. And indeed they do. They go out and they see the glory of Yahweh, either in the cloud or as the cloud in the desert. There are a number of connections between this provision of manna and the Passover passage. So I just want to run through the parallels between them. Both occur at twilight. They were supposed to slaughter the lamb at twilight, and God provides quail at twilight. So looking back at chapter 12, verse 6, there's enough food for each mouth specifically. So look at chapter 12, verse 4 for that. Some people will need less to eat. That's also acknowledged in both passages. And there's a concern with what to do with the leftovers in chapter 12, verse 10. There's a concern to preserve the memory of God's provision. So Passover is to be celebrated every year so that we can remember what God did. And here, manna is to be placed in jars and placed in the Ark of the Covenant, which they haven't even built yet, but that will be a future memory, a memorial of God's provision in the wilderness. And in both cases, this happens at full moon because it's exactly 1 month after the mid-month Passover celebration. So why do these connections matter? Because God's gracious protection and provision in Egypt is the same power that accompanies them through the wilderness and preserves them as God brings them into his presence at Mount Sinai. So this begins chapter 16. We'll continue on next week with the specifics, the particulars of what elapsed after these instructions. But until then, have a great week and rest in God's provision for you.